Hi, everyone. So, as our primer for the D4 launch, I wanted to talk about some very important things to keep in mind while leveling your first character if you want to be efficient and if you want to have a easy time getting through all of the content. So, the main thing that I want to talk about in this video is going to be the difference between world tiers and which world tier should you be playing in. So, when you make a new character and until you get to level 50, you'll only have access to World Tier 1 and World Tier 2. The difference here being World Tier 2 is going to be a little bit harder, but it's going to give you 25% more XP to make up for it. Typically, leveling in World Tier 2 is not going to be very efficient. Everyone's going to actually want to level in World Tier 1. And the reason behind this being you want to rush the campaign as fast as you can. The campaign ends at around level 50 or so. If you simply just follow the campaign while killing a few mobs here and there without really doing too much side content, you can very easily hit level 50 through just World Tier 1, making the 25% increased XP from World Tier 2 pointless. The reason for that being is as soon as you finish the whole story, as soon as you get to Act 5, you will be able to do a endgame dungeon, which will immediately unlock World Tier 3. Now, that dungeon is going to be fairly difficult to do. It's not going to be an easy dungeon, but as soon as you do that, you can immediately go to World Tier 3. And World Tier 3, while it being a little bit hard at first because you might not have the best gear, is going to be very doable and it's going to give you double the experience that you would normally gain. Not only that, but you want to immediately go to World Tier 3 because that's how you will be able to get to these sacred legendaries and all the powerful endgame items. You will basically want to always play in World Tier 3 once you finish the campaign. The only reason you should ever think about World Tier 2 is if you get a really powerful legendary while you're leveling. So for example, if I'm playing a Necromancer and I get the Bone Spear legendary, which increases my Bone Spear damage by 150% and makes it always apply vulnerable, then I would immediately go to World Tier 2. Since I'll be one-shotting everything, I'll be killing the bosses pretty quickly, and I'll just be able to benefit from the 25% increased experience. Now, if you don't do that, you will have to do a little bit of side content. You will have to do maybe a stronghold here and there, but I would highly advise to save those for later. You might have to do a dungeon here or two, and you might have to do a few side quests to be able to hit level 50. Now, each zone is going to be level bracketed, and that does mean that you will need to be a minimum level to be able to continue the story. So that means I can't just straight up bum rush the story, be level 10, move on to Act 2, and keep playing the game at level 10. No, there will be a minimum requirement. So you will have to at least do a little bit of content. That means you can't just ignore every single monster along your path. If you are in World Tier 2, you could completely ignore that, as a 25% increased experience should be more than enough to basically allow you to bum rush nothing but the campaign. But there might be a few points where you do have to stop and do a few of the side quests. With that said, I feel like in general, you will be doing side quests anyway, even if you're in World Tier 2, because the Renown system exists. Now, the first points for every single faction is going to be a passive point. So that means you can get 5 additional passive points throughout the campaign by just simply getting the first level of Renown. And that is really easy to do. The first level of Renown is simply just clicking a few waypoints, maybe doing a dungeon or two, maybe doing a quest or two, and potentially just killing 1 or 2 monsters. It's something you most likely will almost get to by just passively progressing through the story, but it will be something that you will have to go out of your way a little bit here and there to get. Now, the first one, in my opinion, is going to be the most important one, and you might actually want to go off the beaten path in Act 1 and immediately rush that passive point, since in Act 1 you'll only be level 10 or so. So having 1 passive point is a 10% increase in power versus, for example, in Act 5, where 1 passive point might only be around a 2% increase in power, as you'll have around 50 passive points by that point. With that said, if you do just want to play in World Tier 2, then just play in World Tier 2 the whole time. You should have no problem. It's just you'll be a little bit slower. And if you're looking to min-max and get to endgame as fast as possible, that is not necessarily the most efficient path. With that said, if you are playing in a group, then you should just be playing in World Tier 2 almost immediately. Groups in Diablo are going to be extremely strong because they will have a lot of synergy between them. One example I can give for this is if you're playing a rogue and a druid, rogues are really powerful poison-based classes. They can stack a very large amount of poison. And then druids, what they can do is they have an ability that just takes 70% of the current poison damage on a target and just immediately does it as one big hit. So if you're playing a duo comp like that, you could have your rogue be a poison based character, stacking a very big poison on a boss as fast as they can. Then they could tell their druid friend to go. They press their button that just expunges all of the poison and immediately does the damage. And they could have a really powerful combo that way. There's quite a lot of synergy like that throughout the game. And because of that, if you're playing in a group of 4, you will have a substantially easier time and a substantially faster time than a solo player will have. So if you are doing group play, even just a 2-man party, you should just be doing World Tier 2 the whole time, as you will have no problem with the increased difficulty. Let's talk about what you want to do once you are done with the story. So let's say I didn't get lucky at all. I didn't get a single legendary that was good for my build. I had to level in World Tier 1 the whole time, but I am now done with Act 5. I'm done with the story. And I managed to slowly make my way through the World Tier 3 dungeon that unlocks World Tier 3. What should my next moves be? So what I would recommend for you to do is, before any of this, while you're leveling, to not touch a single stronghold if you can. Strongholds scale to your level. They do have a minimum level to them, but if you are above that minimum level, they will always be 3 levels above you. So if I just get to World Tier 3, I can then set World Tier 3 on. I will be extremely weak, so I can't, for example, just go do dungeons or go do endgame content, since my gear will not be up to par. But the strongholds themselves are actually fairly easy to do. And because they are 3 levels above me, that means once I am around level 50 or so, which is what the campaign is going to bring me to, I will be able to go to every single stronghold in the game. There should be 15 of them, and all of them are going to be 3 levels above me. Not only are they going to give insane experience because we're now in World Tier 3, so they'll give me quite a few levels really quickly, but they're going to give me insane gear because it's going to be gear that is better than what I can equip. That includes even the level 20 strongholds in the first act. Those will scale all the way up to level 53. And they probably will be the easiest ones to do, since Blizzard is designing them around you and your character not being very strong, not having many abilities, not having many insane immunities or DRs or things like that. So I would recommend to just go in order, do all the Act 1 strongholds first, and all the Act 2, Act 3, and so on and so forth, because you will be substantially, in terms of your build's power, stronger than what Blizzard is expecting you to have for those. So even though you're a little bit weaker, you should have an easy time doing them. Once you've done all the strongholds, you should have quite a lot of power. You probably will have gotten a few legendaries, since these strongholds give very generous loot. And you should have no problem going around and doing everything in World Tier 3. From that point, what I recommend to do is to go and complete as much world content as you can, as that is still pretty important. At this point, you're going to have your Paragon boards unlocked, and you should want to go and work on Renown. At level 3, you do get a few Paragon points from Renown. And then at level 5, you get a few more Paragon points. Again, you don't need to finish every single faction unless you really want to. But I would recommend, if you do not have your factions at level 3, to go through every single zone and get them to level 3 really quickly. This is going to be content that you're going to have to do no matter what. And if you save this until level 100, well, then you're going to, waste a little bit of your time, because then you won't be getting any XP from doing all of the content that gives you Renown. So you might as well do it as early as you can to also benefit from the few levels you'll gain while doing so. You can go to Tier 5 if you really want to, but you don't have to. At least Tier 3 is good enough. From that point, it is time for you to be able to do quite literally anything you want. At that point, you can start looking into doing Nightmare Dungeons, or you can start looking into doing Hell Tides to farm more gear. I would recommend to attempt Hell Tides, because I've not had access to the game and we have not been able to test Hell Tides. I can't really tell you how difficult they're going to be, but I would at least probably think to go and try to do a Hell Tide or 2 to see how they feel. And if they seem relatively easy with your current build and your current power in World Tier 3, you should definitely go and farm them every time they're up, since they're going to give you targeted legendaries. And with these, you should be able to make your build very, very strong really quickly. And then from that point, just do Nightmare Dungeons whenever you can, when there is no Hell Tide up. That's all there really is to say about all this. This was the compilation of all the information I could gather from me playing myself, from reading every single little bit of news I can, and from talking to players who have been able to test the game in the endgame beta. I hope this helps you to have an easier time, and I hope this helps you at least kind of give you a sense of what you should be doing and how you should be progressing if you want to be efficient. Obviously, if you just want to take your time, if you just want to enjoy the story, feel free to do what you want. But if you do want to min-max your start a little bit and have a bit of a easier time through the early game of your first character, I hope this helped you plan out your path a little bit more. With that said, I hope to see you guys in the next video, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.